Food preservation. Food preservation is one of the methods to protect food from unwanted microbial growth. Food preservation is the process of prevention of food from decay or spoilage by storing in a condition fit for future use. After the food is produced, we store and protect by covering the rice and curry with lids to keep away flies and other insects. By this, we are protecting it from any infection caused by them. This is a short-term condition. Food preservation, on the other hand, is done to preserve food for the long time. In ancient times, cooling, freezing, fermentation, sun drying, etc. are few age-old food preservation techniques. With the adventure of technology, modern methods of food preservation were developed. Chemicals and other natural substances were used for preservation. These substances are known as preservatives. So let me tell you the objective of food preservation. So why we are preserving the food? To increase the shelf life of food. Shelf life in the sense the outer coverage. For example, banana. After ripening well, the color of the banana turns into black. If we are preserving it in a correct way, the ripening may get delayed. Also, the brownish may get slow. To retain the color, the texture, the taste, the flavor, and the nutritive value of the food. So, due to the contamination, the color of the food and the taste of the food may get changed. And also, it is preventing the microbial contamination and also to kill pathogens. It also minimizing the food spoilage and food poisoning. To increase the food supply. So nowadays, the customers are aware of with the expiry dates. So the product which is giving the most validity are the best selling products for nowadays. Through this, the supply of a particular item may get increased due to the correct preservation method. It may increase the food supply. So decrease the wastage of food. For example, pickle. So due to the proper closed lid of a bottle, pickle bottle may store the pickle for a longer period, so that we can use it on a regular basis. It doesn't have any expiries. So that we can use it in a regular way, the pickles, the jams, before the expiry, till the expiries. So food preservation is the technique to prevent food spoilage, food poisoning, and the microbial contamination in the food. An example of preservation is a land trust protecting a forest. An example of preservation is a jar of canned tomatoes. The act of preserving, care to preserve, act of keeping from distractions, decay, or any ill. The methods of food preservation. Among the oldest methods of preservation are drying, refrigeration, and fermentation. So the modern methods includes canning, pasteurization, freezing, irradiation, and the addition of chemicals. So the advances in packing materials have played an important role in modern food preservation. Now we'll discuss about the various methods of food preservation are explained. We could see them, each of them, one by one. The first process is drying. From the name itself, you could come to know it might have done to remove the moisture content, because we are doing drying in our day-to-day life. So drying is the process of preservation of food by removal of water or moisture content in the food. So food drying is one of the oldest methods of preserving food, since drying reduces the moisture in food, making them lightweight and convenient to store. It can easily be used in place of other food preservation techniques. In fact, one can even use drying along with other food preservation techniques such as freezing or canning, which would make the process of food preservation even better. So drying food is simple, safe, and easy. So the early American shelters practiced drying food using the natural forces of sun and wind, and today the use of technology has revolutionized this method of preserving food. With modern food dehydrators, foods such as fruit leathers, fruit chips, dried nuts and seeds, and meat can all be dried year round at home. So how to dry food? Either it may be a sun drying or a vacuum drying or hot air drying. So the sun drying, they have given you an example. It is cereals or pulses or fishes. Drying food in the sun is a safe and economical way to preserve food, especially fruits. Meats and vegetables, however, cannot be dried outdoors since they have a low sugar and acid content. Fruits have a high sugar and acid content, which makes sun drying safe and easy. So the raisins dried in the sun are probably the most widely known of dried fruits. These conditions are ideal for drying and preserving fruits, especially grapes. So sun drying is a slow and time-consuming process since the unpredictable and uncontrollable weather is the drying agent. So, for drying food in the sun, one needs racks or screens that are placed on blocks or on a concrete surface. This arrangement and equipment ensures adequate flow of air around the food. To prevent the transfer of moisture from the earth, place the racks or screen on a concrete surface or over a sheet of aluminium, which will help to increase the temperature. So the next one is vacuum drying. So this is a chemical industrial equipment so that the creamy substance can get into a powdered form by giving pressure. It is most widely used in the chemical industries for the production of limes, and also it is used in the food industries to produce cheese powder, milk powder. So once the creamy substances has got into the process, by giving enough vacuum, the creamy substances may get into a powdered form due to the high content of pressure. Then hot air techniques. So it is used for drying grapes, dry fruits and potato flakes. So it is important to pack and store dried fruits properly, since they are prone to insect contamination and moisture reabsorption. So one can use glass jars, metal cans, box with tight fitted lids or moisture vapor resistant freezer to pack such kind of foods. So the food dehydrators are small electrical appliances that can be used to dry and preserve food indoors. A dehydrator has an electric element for the heat and a fan and vents for airflow and circulations. So the dry fruits, potato flakes can be stored in a can or a tin. So drying prevents the growth of microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast and molds. It is a kind of microorganism, so that it has to be packed correctly. Then smoking. So smoking is the process of the food products like meat, fish are exposed to smoke. It is the process of flavoring, cooking or preserving food by exposing it to the smoke from burning or smoldering plant materials. So smoking of wood is done at the commercial as well as the home level. So the meats are hung or placed on racks in an enclosed area so that the smoke does not escape and instead penetrates foods. Commercial smoking is sometimes carried out with steam pipes that supplement the wood fire. So there are many techniques like hot smoking, cold smoking. So hot smoking, foods are exposed to smoke in a controlled environment. So hot smoked foods can be reheated or cooked, but they are safe to eat even without further cooking. So the hot smoking is carried out in a temperature that are within the range of 52 degrees Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius. This process can be carried out in closed wood fire pit. The cold smoking. Cold smoking is used more as a flavor enhancer. It is used especially for cold smoking pork chops, beef steaks, chicken breasts, salmon. The temperature used for cold smoking are between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. It is also preventing the action of smoke lens to preserve the foods. The smoke also works as a barrier to prevent the bacterial growth. Irradiation. Irradiation has been transformed into a word with a negative connotation attached to it. The credit for this goes to the harmful radiation about which we read every day in the newspaper, which is exposure to which leads to cancer, tumors. So, irradiation is a method of preservation techniques used to reduce the spoilage, extend the shelf life of the product, and it even kill the pathogenic bacteria present in the food. So it is the process of exposing food to optimum level of ionizing radiations like X-rays, gamma rays or UV rays to kill harmful bacteria and pests. This carried out with alpha, beta and gamma radiation. These are collectively called as ionizing radiations. The radiation dose applied to a food product is measured in terms of kilogray, that is kgy. The dose applied to the food depends on the composition of the food, the degree of perishability, and the potential of the food to support harmful microorganisms. Certain foods such as milk and eggs cannot be preserved by this method as it causes textural changes in them. But in general, irradiation causes minimal changes to the chemical composition of the food. However, a certain amount of reduction is observed in vitamin B complex vitamin. So the food radiation, what is the uses of food irradiation method? It increases the shelf life of the product. It also reduces the spoilage and the risk of certain microorganisms. It also reduces the risk of food pests, which may be present inside the food items. Use of irradiation as a preservative technique reduces the use of chemical preservatives and antioxidants, few of which can be toxic. It significantly delays sprouting in potatoes, onions, herbs and spices. The foods that have been irradiated are to be labeled with the statement that the food ingredients or components have been treated with ionizing radiation. In addition to compulsory labelings, irradiated foods may also be marked with a symbol called a radar, which is the international symbol for irradiation. So irradiation is the safest way to prevent the food items. It is also preserve the freshness of our fruits or our vegetables. Cold storage. So, cold storage is a process of storing the perishable foods, items such as vegetables, fruits and fruit products, milk and milk products, etc. So, the refrigeration are among the oldest methods of food preservation. So, this major advance was hampered by the lack of proper facilities, a prime requirement of any refrigerated or frozen food industry. So, the quick freezing process, equipments, the frozen zones. So, the difference between refrigeration and cold storage on the one hand and the freezing and frozen storage on the other hand should be noted. The cold storage generally refers to storage at a temperature above freezing from about 16 degrees Celsius down to -2 degrees Celsius. So the commercial and household refrigerators are usually operated at 4.5 to 7 degrees Celsius. So the refrigeration and freezing temperature are related to microorganism activity. Most food spoilage microorganisms can grow rapidly at the temperature above 10 degrees Celsius, but some grow at a temperature below 0 degrees Celsius as long as there. So, preserving the food product at low temperature slows down the biological and chemical reactions and prevents its spoilage. Freezing. Freezing is one of the widely used methods of food preservation. The process involves storing the food below 0 degrees Celsius, at which the microorganism cannot grow. So, freezing has been successfully employed the long-term preservation of many foods. So, the extreme cold simply retards the growth of microorganisms and slows down the chemical changes that affect quality or cause foods to spoil. So, at 0 degrees Celsius, the microorganism become inactive. So we have to bring it to the room temperature for their normal purpose or the normal use. So the fruits or vegetables, we store it in a freezing point. The enzymes which is used for its ripening becomes inactive, so that the fruit or a vegetable can stay for a longer period, comparing to the food which is not kept in the freezing point. For example, the tomato or a banana, if we keeping it in a normal temperature, it may ripen it very fast and get decay because of the chemical reaction which is happening inside the food or vegetables. When it is keeping it in a cold storage or a freezing point, the reaction gets stopped. Pasteurization. So we could see in the packet milks, it's a pasteurized milk. So pasteurization is a process of heat treatment of liquid food products. That is, the boiling of milk and beverages. The boiling of milk to a temperature of 63 degrees Celsius for about 30 minutes and suddenly cooling it to destroy the microbes which is present in the milk. So pasteurization may be applied to both packaged and unpackaged solids and liquids. So the examples of commonly pasteurized products are milk, syrup, vinegar, wine, etc. So how the pasteurization works? The liquids are pasteurized while flowing through a pipe along one section. Heat may be applied directly or using steam or hot water. Next, the liquid is cooled. The temperature and duration of the phases are carefully controlled. So the food may be pasteurized after it has been packaged to a container. For a glass container, hot water is used to attain the desired temperature to avoid shattering the glass. For plastic and metal containers, either steam or hot water may be applied so that it could destroy the microbes present in the milk. Canning. So canning is nothing but preserving of food supplements in a tin or a can. So in this method of food preservation, most vegetables, fruits, meats and dairy products, fruit juices and some ready-to-eat foods are processed and stored in a clean, steamed, airtight containers under pressure and then sealed. It is then subjected to a high temperature and cooled to destroy all microbes. The fact I have included here, which is in your book. So bananas are best stored at room temperature. We would store banana in a room temperature. When it is kept in a refrigerator, what happens? The enzymes responsible for ripening becomes inactive because it is under the temperature. In addition, the enzyme responsible for browning and cell damage becomes more active. So while keeping a banana, comparing to when it is kept in a fridge or at a room, the banana which is kept in a room becomes ripen faster and decay because of the enzymatic activities. The banana which is kept in the fridge may get brownish, but it will not ripe very faster. So the enzyme which is responsible for browning and cell damage only active, thereby causing the skin color change from yellow to dark brown.